Hello and welcome to the official Hayters TV Premier League Roundup Show. I'm your host, Aaron Goldstein, and today I'm joined by Lewis Bryon, Jerry Cox, and Nathan Edwards to discuss all things Premier League Match Day 2. Let's go straight into it. Start with the champions, who absolutely dismantled Ipswich, largely thanks to Erling Haaland.
A few weeks ago, I think he feels better than the previous season. After travel, he struggled to handle it, and maybe not too much holidays. And remember, in the beginning, I said, still I'm tired, still I am a bit drained. And this season, for no Euros and relax and arrived really well. We talk a little bit in the States, like I didn't like some things that. And he changed, I think, mine. And I think, of course, he cannot play all the games until the end of the season. But you know how important it is. The numbers, scoring goals is unbelievable.
So, guys, welcome to the show. Erling Haaland's obviously started the season in traditional Erling Haaland fashion. Also in the Pep Guardiola conference there, which you can obviously check out on the Haters YouTube, he kind of compared him to Ronaldo and Messi. How long do you think he's got to be before he's on that kind of level of comparison?
I think he's got a long way to get to the Messi level and Ronaldo level, but from a goal scoring aspect, I don't think he's far off. If he may even have some out their level at his age and when they were at his age, but he's a joke. He's relentless. There's no way of stopping him really.
Yeah, he's got a long way to go before you start talking about him in the same breath as Messi and Ronaldo, because literally, over a period of years, they just built up this incredible body of work, tournaments won, games played, goals scored, and great goals. So I think he's got a long way to go, but he is, as Nathan just said, his goal scoring prowess is fantastic. I think you're slightly wrong to say he started the season in traditional format, because he only got one on the opening day. He gets two.
Yeah.
So I think he was making up for it against Ipswich, who made the fatal mistake of scoring. Because if they'd have left it until the last minute to score at 0-0, you never know. But don't poke the sleeping beast.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about Messi and Ronaldo, you talk about longevity. And Haaland, to be compared, he has to do it over 10, 15 years. I think he's got the potential to maybe rival Ronaldo's performances and potentially his goal numbers. But Messi, I don't think he can be in a question with him.
Erling Haaland's record is 67 goals in 68 Premier League games, which that means if he is to stay fit this season, he'll hit 100 Premier League goals before the end of the season, carrying on at that rate. Do you think he'll be the quickest player to ever reach 100 Premier League goals? And Jerry, do you see him overtaking Alan Shearer at any point if he stays around?
Well, it's if he stays around, and also a question about whether City are still in the top flight, because that's all up for grabs this year. He's on course for that sort of goal scoring record, and he's going to challenge him without doubt. But again, it's all about fitness. Does he stay there? Is he going to move on at some stage? I don't think anyone really saw him being a long-term buy for City. I think there was always the thinking that he might be there 2, 3, 4 years and then move on. So, he could break it, but I think it would be interesting to see where he goes next.
Haaland's obviously the last 2 seasons Golden Boot winner, but we also had the Golden Boot winner of the Championship net his first Premier League goal, Sammy Schmodics. I think that's how you say his name. A largely preventable goal, you might say. And Man City last season, they kept 13 clean sheets, which was 5 less than Arsenal. You would like to say that, yes, they won the league, but their defence it's not as strong as you might think the champions, the best team in the world, might have. Nathan, do you think their defence is a bit of a weak link?
No, but as Jerry said, it's like poking the bear. Once you score against them, they're relentless. I think it took 191 seconds in game for them to score 3 goals to turn
I wasn't
it around.
counting, but
Yeah, well, that's what I was doing. But, but yeah, they're just relentless, and it kind of flick a switch when they concede, and there's not much stopping them.
Yeah, it wasn't a great goal to concede, was it? I mean, the Smodic went through the middle quite quickly, quite easily, and then Ederson really didn't make a mess of it, didn't he? I think you could say. And maybe there's a little bit of a question mark about Ederson. It was talking he wanted to leave or was thinking about going. So maybe we're seeing the tail end of his career, certainly at City. So maybe not as I think we could have said he was probably the best keeper in certainly in the league and possibly in the world over the past 4 or 5 years. But starting to creak a bit, maybe.
Yeah, I think when you're Man City and you're spending so long attacking, and it shifts the mindset of the players, even the defenders, of how can we attack, how can we score, and then when the opposition do get the ball, sometimes it takes a while to switch back into that mindset of, right, we've got to defend now. What shape are we in? Whose roles are what? And that can make them more vulnerable at the back sometimes.
If you're Ed Sheeran, McKenna, or any Ipswich fan, you looked at that start to the season and thought, oh my God, we've got Liverpool and Man City as our first two. They've got them out of the way. They didn't look too bad against Liverpool in parts. They've obviously scored against Man City. Do you give Ipswich any chance of staying up this season?
Yeah, I think so. I think solely down to Kieran McKenna. He's proved himself in 2 English leagues before, and I think he swapped his tactics from the Liverpool game and Man City game. So he obviously is understanding the Premier League. I think if they are going to stay up, it'll be down to him solely.
And also, he's a highly ambitious manager. I think it's no secret he wanted to leave in the summer. He's very close to the Brighton job. So obviously, for his own career, he doesn't want to have a relegation on his record. So he'll be doing everything he can to keep them up. And I think there's a decent side there, and there'll be worse sides that will go down. Yeah,
they impressed me the first half against Liverpool, and I think it'll just be. Listen, I think it's going to be hard for them to get a lot of points, but there's going to be 3-4 other teams where it's going to be hard for them to get a lot of points as well. Everton, Southampton, Leicester. So there's not only 3 teams in it; they've got a chance to stay up 100%.
On to Arsenal's trip to Villa Park, a team that beat them home and away last season, but Mikel Arteta's men got their revenge. Were you impressed with that Arsenal performance, Lewis?
I was actually, yeah, because, listen, Arsenal had 2 clear-cut chances against them, Ollie Watkins, which arguably could have been put away. And Arsenal of 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, would have affected their style of play, them chances going in against them. And then when they get their own chances, the atmosphere in the team morale, the team energy changes, and it's harder to put them away and keep playing your same game. We did that now. We kept receipts from last year, and listen, I'm happy as an Arsenal fan. Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, I think they haven't hit top form yet. They haven't hit the ground running probably, but it doesn't matter that much at this time of the year, especially if you get the results. So they weren't at the best against Wolves, and I don't think against Villa. They, as Lewis just said, they could be 2 down before they scored. So, tougher games to come as we'll get onto. But if I were an Arsenal fan, I'm not. I wouldn't be too concerned. I'd be quite happy with the start they're making because it's the old cliche. It doesn't matter how you win if you win. So yeah, I'll be happy enough.
Exactly, and also to win away at Villa Park, not playing your best, and they've got Champions League football, and it was rocking, especially when Watkins had those 2 chances. But they've just got individual talent that can, like Trossard, to come off the bench and win you those games. I don't think many other teams have a player of that caliber who can just change a game like that and score winning.
It was so inevitable that he was going to come on and score. I think everyone kind of knew it. Martinelli's not playing up to scratch. All the Arsenal fans, as soon as Trossard comes on the pitch, you just look at each other like, here we go. We know what's happening now. Look, the real moment of the match was that first Watkins miss because it was an absolute sitter. But the moment that will stick long in the memory of any Arsenal fan, and probably football fans, was that David Raya save. Save of the season already?
I think so, yeah. It's got to be. And it's going to take some beating throughout the rest of the season. Just on David Raya and how important he's been for Arsenal. I remember, I think it was Frank Lampard who said about Petr Cech for Chelsea, and he said a good keeper can gain you 15 points a season. And I think that's what we've got at Arsenal now with David Raya. And listen, if he can gain us 15 points a season, we'll be in and around it every year.
Save of the season so far, but bear in mind we're only two rounds.
Yeah.
I think there'll be better saves as the season goes on, and you'd have to say Watkins should have put that away. He put it straight at him. So, great save, excellent save. I go back way back to the 1973 FA Cup final, Jim Montgomery of Sunderland against the mighty Leeds, and he did a similar thing. He stopped one and then flipped one on the bar and got up to recover from a diving header. So those saves live long in the memory, but I still think Watkins should have done better with it.
I'm just trying to think how you move your neck muscles to get the ball past David Raya there. I don't think Watkins could have done much more with a header. He just has to hit it goalwards. And David Raya, he leapt. Can you think of a better Premier League save?
I think Ramsdale's free kick that was more like a reactionary because it got past the wall and he kind of just flicked it on. I think that was one of the best saves I've seen. But obviously now he's back up to Raya, so maybe it's just an Arsenal goalkeeper thing.
Look, 2 seasons of finishing runners-up. It's a fantastic result for Arsenal. But next up on the road, the North London derby, Tottenham.
Back.
Hi. Having lost here last season, lost at home, the next 2 away games are against Tottenham and Man City. What can this do for confidence?
Let me enjoy tonight. I will think about again Brighton, and in the future we know after the international break what is coming.
Okay, guys, thanks very much. Everyone.
Thank you.
We gotta win these games, guys. Nathan, Arsenal. Next up, Brighton, and then it's Spurs and Man City away. After match day 5, how many points do you think Arsenal will have?
I think if they get 2 wins from those 3 games, they'll be happy. Obviously, Man City away is going to be a difficult game, and we saw last year they weren't confident enough to fully go for the win. But I think this year, right at the start of the season, Man City maybe have not got into full gear, and maybe Arsenal will feel more confident about taking points against them.
I think it's still a bit of shadow play and an early season sort of mentality going on. I know Postecoglou said after Spurs win, some of these players still aren't up to speed yet. They're not up to match fitness. We'll see after the international break when they're all 100% because they've had long summers. A lot of them involved in the Euros or the Copa America. So a lot of players only really came back into pre-season a couple of weeks ago. So I think we won't see the best from all of those teams, especially the ones that have had a lot of players on international duty, until after that break. And obviously, it depends how many are called up, where they're flying in from after the break. So, I think it's more about that. I think Arsenal against Brighton this week would be a good test because Brighton have had good results at the Emirates, haven't they? So I think that'd be a really interesting one as well.
Yeah, I think what's going to be key for Arsenal and all the top 4 teams really is giving the right amount of rest to the international players. Declan Rice had 3 weeks off, which is nothing. I mean, that's technically 1 week off because you've got to start preparing for the season a few weeks before. And Arsenal have looked a little leggy in midfield, especially against Villa. So managing their minutes, the international break, using that effectively is going to be big for Arsenal.
And what do you think? There's a lot of talk amongst Arsenal fans whether Trossard should walk into that team and take Martinelli's spot. Do you see that happening anytime soon?
I don't know. The thing is, when you come off the bench and you always seem to do well off the bench, you can get typecast as the super sub, can't you? And it could be a good opportunity. He knows he's got Trossard there on the bench if Martinelli's not performing. So if it's worked so effectively, why would you change it? And we can still start Martinelli, try and build his confidence back up to what it was. And we've got the get out of jail free card, haven't we? With Trossard.
I'd go back a couple of generations. One way back in time, David Fairclough was the original super sub when he was at Liverpool in the 70s and 80s.
Was he the ginger guy?
Ginger guy. And he scored goals. He scored goals in European competitions, always coming off the bench. When he started, not the same player.
Yeah.
And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was very similar as well at United. He's one of those players that always came off the bench, scored goals. When they gave him a start, just didn't have the same sort of impact. So I think, and especially like you're saying, in this modern game, the intensity is so much. A player who can come on after an hour against tiring legs and has a knack of scoring goals and causing problems is a great weapon to have. You've got to manage over 90 minutes. It's not about putting your best team out at the start and then, they're all a bit weaker after an hour. You need to be thinking you've got a good team to start with, but then for the final half hour, you want your finishers on the pitch. You want your really strong players then. So, maybe that is the best tactic. Keep him for that last half hour.
Yesterday, we learned that money may not be able to buy happiness, but it can buy you a lot of goals. That Chelsea performance left Wolves feeling rather sorry for themselves.
I can judge Noni performance that has been fantastic, not only second half, even first half. As I said, the first 10-15 minutes, he was always 1v1 creating something. Since day one, I said that is the kind of winger that I really like. He's working very good with us. But the best thing for me from today from Noni was not the hat-trick, was the way he defended 90 minutes, a counter-attacker there. And that showed the right mentality that I'm asking the players.
Before we go to Nathan, who is our resident Chelsea expert, Jerry, I've got a question for you. Palmer assisting Madueke for the hat-trick. It's a hat-trick of assists for a hat-trick scorer. Is the first Premier League hat-trick of that kind, 3 assists from the same player, since who?
Oh, bloody. In the Premier League?
In the Premier League. There's a reason.
Kane and Son?
Correct.
Yeah.
There was a
I'm
reason
guessing,
I came to
really,
you. And interestingly, in that game, it was 4.
Which
Son,
one was it?
I think it was Southampton.
Southampton away. I was
2020.
there, 5-2.
Yeah,
I was at that one.
Oh, good knowledge.
Absolutely mental. What did you make of Chelsea yesterday?
It was a really refreshing performance because for so long, like for the past 2-3 years, I've watched Chelsea and they've just fluffed all their chances and then gone on to lose games. I think against Wolves last season it happened twice. Bournemouth, it's happened multiple times, and so many other games. But the attack just seemed like it played with so much more freedom. Cole Palmer was obviously his best game since he's come back from the Euros. Noni Madueke is probably his most outstanding performance in a Chelsea shirt. And I think the good thing for Chelsea as well is we've got a designated centre-back partnership as well, which I don't think we've had since we won the Premier League. Well, that was a back three since we won the Premier League in 2017. And it's somewhere we can actually build a squad from, despite the mountainous amount of players.
This Chelsea team, like, if you want to win the lottery and you buy one ticket, you haven't got a big chance. If you buy all of the tickets, it's gonna somehow work out, and that's what Chelsea have done. So the goals were obviously going to come. You've actually touched on the defence being the big thing in your mind. There's so many attacking players. They're linked with Osimhen now as well. With that calibre of player they have in their squad already, and the ones that they're linked with, surely they get top four.
I don't know. I think that 6-2 could be a bit of false confidence in my eyes.
It's Wolves.
Because it's Wolves. The game was quite end-to-end in the first half, and then Chelsea sort of took the second half to regroup, get their shape. And then after that first goal went in of the second half, Wolves, they sort of collapsed under the pressure.
Yeah, I think there's still a long way to go with that Chelsea project, as they call it. I don't think they're a top four shoe-in anyway. I mean, they'll be contenders. They should be, But he said, I was at Maresca's press conference before the opening game of the season. And he said, no one at the club has said to me, we need to make the Champions League, the top four. That's not our target. No one said that. So, maybe that takes the pressure off, but that's maybe they're just being realistic and thinking it's going to be a tough one this year.
Well, Lewis, you've obviously come through the ranks at Crystal Palace. Madueke, it's his first Premier League hat-trick, also started at Palace. Is he one of the best players you think's ever come through the Palace Academy?
Yeah, he's definitely up there. I mean, he's got all the attributes you would want from a world-class winger. He's got pace, he's strong, he's willing to run in behind, and as mentioned in the clip, he's also willing to do his defensive work. I'm
willing to do all that as well. I'm just not very good.
Yes, exactly that. That's the key. But he's also very good off both feet. And as a winger who's very good off both feet, it's so hard to defend against it. It's almost impossible. Because a lot of people, let's go Saka, they're very good off one foot. They've got their trademark move, a little drop of the shoulder, cut in left foot. But he can go both ways, and it's very hard to twist and turn at that speed.
I love that you immediately go to Saka. He is the comparison boy. It doesn't matter who has come over the last few years. It's any Premier League player that you want to talk about. It's compare him to Bukayo, star boy. He's a level above. Okay, let's have a think here though. So Chelsea spent all this money. Another team that notoriously spends a lot of money, Manchester City. Do you think that the Premier League's become less competitive because of the amount of money that's been spent? Jerry, I mean, you've watched the Premier League from the start to now.
Since it started, yeah. I mean, there is a clear correlation between the amount of money you spend on salaries and weight and transfers, and the points you get, the success you get, and that's not just the Premier League. That's right across Europe's big five leagues, particularly. So it will always be the big spenders up there challenging for it. It's probably not a good thing that City have won 4 in a row. That's unprecedented. And of course, this year it could all be changed by off the field in court proceedings. Whether it's less competitive, I can remember an era when teams like Derby County, Nottingham Forest would either win the league or challenge for the league, even Ipswich way back. But Leicester are the only ones really in this modern era, this century, really, aren't they? They're the outlier. And even then, they'd spent reasonably heavily for Leicester that season or so. So, money talks. Whether it's less competitive, I don't know. We had periods of dominance before, didn't we? United, Arsenal, Chelsea. It happens to be City now, but it's the challengers. That changes every few years, so that keeps it healthy.
On the whole, Nathan, have you been happy with Chelsea's spending, or have you thought it's a bit mental?
Oh, it's obviously mental. There's no doubt about it. But you look at City, and they don't spend as much as Chelsea, but you'd say from their signings they've had a much better hit rate with how successful they've been. But with Chelsea, I mean, it takes time to bleed a squad in and get players comfortable, and when it's always changing, I don't like that approach as much, but it looks hopefully to be finding its feet now, fingers crossed.
Madueke was a bargain, wasn't he? Only 38 million. They spent 3 times that on 2 players individually.
It's crazy. Yeah. But spending doesn't always pay off. Manchester United, in particular, they fell to their first defeat through a João Pedro late winner at the Amex.
Disappointed, yeah. because also in the Community Shield we concede just before time, we concede the goal. So we should be more clinical in such situations, read the game, take the point if you can't win anymore. And I think we were close to win this game, but then definitely don't lose the game.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Erik ten Hag joined at the beginning of the 22-23 season, correct? So since he's joined Man United, no team has lost more Premier League matches thanks to last-minute winners than Man United. However, in the 30 years of Premier League football previously, before Ten Hag joined, Manchester United lost a total of 2 matches, 2 in 30 years, to last-minute winners. And now United are doing it all the time. What is it, a mentality thing? What's going wrong?
I don't know. I think the worst thing for United is there's so much scrutiny on that club now. I also look at the back four and think it changes too many times. And for when players come in and another player comes in to replace him, they tend to be different styles. For example, Dalot starts at right back, Shaw comes out left back, Dalot gets shifted over to left back, and it's a completely different style to Luke Shaw. So it's all a bit disjointed, and you do need a regular back four, I think, to really build up them relationships and understand each other's roles. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be slightly concerned about United if I was a fan, because I think they're still, I mean, they're far from the finished article, you know, and I think they might struggle for top 4 this year, realistically. They don't look that great to me, you know, and I think there's better teams knocking on the door.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think they still need a proper striker as well. They play with Mount and Fernandes, and once, you know, it doesn't seem like there's a proper presence in the box when those two play. When Xerxes came on, it changed a bit. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things to improve on for United, definitely.
You know, Brighton are also a bit of a bogey team for Man United. Since Brighton have come up, the only team to beat Man United more than them is Manchester City, which is absolutely crazy. But my favourite moment of the match was undoubtedly Garnacho. He's hit the back of the net, but Xerxes touched it on the line, and it's been ruled out for offside. Now, I have a friend who's a United fan, and he said that he thinks it was a little bit harsh because, like, if a player takes a shot and it nips a deflection, that doesn't mean it's an own goal. The ball's going in anyway. Do you think it was a bit harsh, or is he interfering with play, or is it bad play from Xerxes?
It's bad play from Xerxes. Yeah, I mean, he knows he's in it, or he should know he's in an offside position, and he's touched the ball to go in when it was already going in. I mean, there was a similar situation. I don't know if it was United, but it was with Ronaldo years and years ago, where Ronaldo sort of lobbed it over the keeper.
It was with Nani from Portugal.
Yeah, Nani's taking it off him. So it's a similar situation, and you just need to be more aware as a forward.
Xerxes, do you think he'll find his feet in the Premier League? He obviously scored the winner.
Well, he obviously had a flying start, didn't he? Came on, scored very quickly, and it was the winning goal. So you know, I think he'll be all right. Yeah, I think he'll be a good player. But you know, that's not the solution to their problems. There's more to it with United.
United, if you're a United fan, what's your expectation this season?
Well, it's definitely got to be top 6, but I think as well as I did say striker, but I also think a DM is also important. You know, it does seem like a proper DM would help Kobbie Mainoo perform better and also secure the back four better as well.
Spurs looked back to their best as well, albeit it was against Everton, so we'll give them a bit of the benefit of the doubt. Jerry, you were at the game. What did you make of the Tottenham performance?
Yeah, it was good. They looked much more like they intend to be. It's an Ange Postecoglou team, and they're on the front foot. I mean, it was one of those. There were 12 corners before half time, and I think Everton had 2 or 3 of those. It was full on, and unlike the game at Leicester last Monday, they put their chances away, and that was the big difference. But it was interesting to talk to Postecoglou afterwards. You know, I said to him, does that sort of multivariate attack please you? You know, the way they've adapted, because, you know, Solanke was bought as the number 9. Suddenly he's not available. Son's back in there. We all knew it didn't really suit Sonny last year. But Son scored 1 goal from that number 9 position and 1 goal from out wide. They scored a good team goal. Basuma scored a great goal, which obviously capped off a fairly turbulent couple of weeks for him. So that was a bit of redemption. Son got one from pressing, a howler from Jordan Pickford, and then a header from Romero from a corner. And then the final one was, you know, Mickey van der Ven bring the ball 80 yards out of defence. So, you know, this is what Postecoglou was saying afterwards, was that possibly they were one-dimensional last year. You know, there was a question that Spurs need to mix it up a bit. and he's really pleased that that's what they're doing now. And I think you could see they needed to do that, and it gives them more threat, without doubt.
I don't want to get cancelled here. I really don't. And so categorically, I am not comparing Mickey van der Ven to Eden Hazard, Ryan Giggs. I'm not doing that. But you think back of those runs. Eden Hazard against Arsenal, 16-17. Ryan Giggs against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final, 99. Heung-min Son against Burnley a couple of years ago. These players, when they're running the length of the pitch, bring them down. What are you doing? It's just literally torn through the whole Everton team. I don't get it. Like, surely Sean Dyche is going mental at his players.
Yeah, well, it's a tactical foul, isn't it? You're going to get a yellow card to stop a counter-attack. I mean, Jose Mourinho was also massive on it. He, fouled to stop the transition. That's where most goals come from. But it's easier said than done to bring them down. Son's a very quick player, very strong. Mickey van der Ven, the same thing. So you've got to catch him to bring him down.
We spoke to him afterwards, actually. And I said, what was going through your mind? He said, well, I'll just keep going, see how it goes, and see if someone comes in. And no one did. So I got going, and I got to the centre backs, drive, and we said, were you tempted to shoot? Because he scored a really good goal last season, I think against Luton. And he said, no. I knew Sonny was outside to my left, and I knew he's going to finish. So it's good selfless stuff as well. But it's just the fact that he started off thinking, well, let's see where this takes me. And what was interesting, again, talking to him and Postecoglou, is that he said the manager gives us that freedom to play it off the cuff if that's what we want to do. I know managers who are so choreographed that the players almost have a grid. They can't move out of that pattern. And yet some managers, and you'll know this, Lewis, from your experience, some managers give you the freedom to try your own thing. And obviously that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But as long as you're not getting castigated for getting it wrong, you've got the confidence to try things. I mean, I don't know what it's like for you. Yeah,
it's normally what I've found with managers is the better player you are, especially on the ball, the more creative, then they might give you a bit more freedom. So that just shows what Ange believes in his players, that he's given them that license. But generally, stuff like playing out from the back or how they want to press, set pieces would be very rigid for most managers I've been under, and then stuff in the final third may be a bit more free flowing. But I've played centre back for a long time as well, and I've had managers almost trust me to do what I want in terms of playing out as well because they trusted me on the ball. So it varies a lot, manager to manager.
Well, you touched on the fact that you did hear from Ange after the game. Let's hear a snippet from that.
There's no doubting his ability. He has that ability to do something special. But he needs to make sure that he does everything, as I said, or endeavours to do everything right on and off the field to give him the platform to show who he can be as a footballer. And we certainly believe in him, and we're certainly giving him an opportunity. But as I said before the game, that's just not a never-ending thread. At some point, you need to cut it, and it's really up to him to keep going on.
Mate.
He's talking about Bissouma there, obviously, who he had that couple of weeks imposed suspension by the club, self-imposed suspension for being pictured apparently taking nitrous oxide. So, it's just not a bright thing to do. But he sort of came back. It was a fantastic sort of response to it. He had a really good game, actually. Possibly man of the match as well, and a great goal. First goal for Tottenham. And, I think that's another key for Spurs this year is getting the best out of him. He started well last season and then faded badly after the African Cup of Nations. So it's such a key position in Postecoglou's system. If Bissouma can play at his peak most of the season, then they've got a good foundation there.
Every Yves Bissouma goal that he's ever scored in the Premier League has come from outside the box. Yeah. Learn something new every day. You can hear the full interview, the full conference with Ange Postecoglou. You can hear Jerry's interview with Mickey van der Ven by signing up to the Hayters YouTube membership scheme. Well, actually, the Postecoglou one's free. You can go check that out as well. Just click join on the Hayters YouTube, and prices start at 99p per month. So much exclusive content, behind the scenes access. If I wasn't right here, I'd probably be doing that. Rounding up the big sixes fixtures, Liverpool ended the weekend with a comfortable 2-0 win at home to Brentford. Arne Slot's got off to a great start. In fact, he's the first Liverpool manager ever to win his first 2 Premier League games in the Premier League era, which is crazy. Klopp, Benitez, none of them managed it. But it is a little bit hard to keep everybody happy, as we've seen with Trent Alexander-Arnold.
If you mean. Yeah. I understand. It's not every player wants to play 90 minutes, but I don't think the players that were on the bench from the start were really happy with the choice I made. So, but Trent came back from the national team, where in the beginning of the tournament he played quite a lot. Then he didn't. Had a few weeks off. Came back. It's only his third game, and we have to take care of him as well because we need him for the whole season and not only for the first 2 games. And what the good thing for me is that I have a very good backup as well with Connor. So that means we are taking care of him, of Trent. But he played a good game. That's also what I saw.
This is completely off topic, but we've got a lot of bald managers in the Premier League. He's got the shiniest head I've ever seen. Absolutely mental. Trent was not happy. He got subbed off with 15 minutes to go. 2-0 up, game's won. He's got his fancy clean sheet points. Why is he complaining? Grow up.
Yeah, for me, the manager's made the perfect decision. Like he said, he's come off the back of an international tournament. He's had less time off after a longer season. His minutes need to be managed. The only thing I can think of is in Trent's head, is he trying to push a narrative that maybe he's trying to push the narrative. Maybe he wants to go to another club in Spain.
Which one?
I don't know which one.
I heard Real Valladolid. They love him.
Listen, that's the only thing I can think of. I don't see why you'd get the ump. They've got a big game next week as well, so it seemed like the perfect decision for me.
What have you thought about Liverpool so far, Jerry? Expecting big things?
Yeah, I think they'll do well. And like you say, I remember Jurgen Klopp came in mid-season. First game was a goalless draw at Tottenham, and he was slightly blown away by the intensity. And he rebuilt that side completely over the next 4 or 5 years and won the league and Champions League. So it wasn't a fast start for him. But the building blocks are in place for a good start for Slot. I wouldn't expect them to win the league this year, but you don't know. There were times last year they were top of the league, and you could argue that the timing of Klopp's announcement that he was leaving really took the wind out of their sails, because they had the cup final, they won, didn't they, the League Cup, but then they just sort of went, I don't know, they just didn't really sort of seem pushing that hard for the rest of the season. So, it's a good squad. It's a really good squad. They've still got match winners. They've got, Mo Salah and so on. So I think they'll do well, but I'd be really surprised if they won the league.
Nathan, what do you think? Do you give them any chance of winning the league?
I don't think they'll win the league, but I think, we've seen when managers of this influence like Jurgen Klopp have left, that there's normally a downturn in form, but I think how they started, it doesn't know that will happen. And I think the first goal was like a carbon copy of Klopp's dream goal, just a rapid counter-attack and a lethal finish. And I think Arne Slot needs to embrace a bit of Klopp, but also build on his own legacy as well.
Liverpool have a fantastic squad. Players like Gakpo, Darwin Núñez, they're not really getting a look in. How hard is it to keep a whole squad happy? How do they deal with that at Crystal Palace, even in the youth teams? How do you do it?
Yeah, for a new manager, it's very, very hard, because you got to think that manager's coming in and he's going to get judged by every single player after the first meeting, the first training session, the first week of training, and the first squad picked. So the 11 players that picked are going to be happy, of course. All the subs, they're already starting off in his bad books. So to manage that as a coach when you're new, it's a thankless task, and it's near impossible. So he's going to have to try and. This is where, for me, man management is massive. Pulling your players who are not maybe playing as many minutes, pulling them to one side, having the conversations. I remember a few managers having them conversations with me. It'd be something like, the game on Saturday, we'll try and get you on late on, but the game on Tuesday, we really need you to shine. Stuff like that, just to build your confidence up when they're telling you bad news.
Nathan, any comments coming through? I think we had a poll going up about who was the player of the weekend. Can you tell me who's winning that one?
Yeah, I think Raya's winning that, with Madueke quite close and Haaland far behind on only 8%, which is quite harsh, I think. But yeah,
well, it's because you just expect Haaland to score a hat-trick against Ipswich.
And Shantu Bello is calling for Chelsea to sign Osimhen as well, which could be interesting.
Osimhen, do you see him going to Chelsea?
I could see everyone going to Chelsea at this rate. I know. Hopefully, he can come to Arsenal. That's where I see. Manifest that. And
put it out there, please.
Chelsea can't make a big money signing without selling. All their deals effectively have been swap deals this summer. So
that's what they want you to think. They'll find a way.
We'll find a way. But I think so. That's a sticking point for him. There's an offer from Saudi Arabia, which will be riches beyond his dreams. Arsenal again, another one that would like a number 9 in that mould, and maybe United. So there's a few clubs he could go to. He's obviously a terrific player. It's where he wants to go, really.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely leave as well, with obviously Lukaku in, which is I think why the transfer value's probably gone down, because I don't think you can play with Lukaku and Osimhen in the same team.
Any other comments that you want us to get round to?
Yeah, and someone was just praising Raya. He didn't actually think the save this week was his best. He thought the one against Wolves was better. Knee.
He is an absolute joke, David Raya.
David or David?
Well, apparently it's David, according to that Premier League video where they're all giving their names. But he's Spanish. If it's David, you're wrong. You're wrong, David. The thing was, so many Arsenal fans were disappointed to see him come in because they had such a fondness towards Aaron Ramsdale. And I will put it on the record, I think Aaron Ramsdale was treated a little bit unfairly because he didn't deserve to be dropped as brutally as he was. He didn't play in the Champions League games, or it was just League Cup, here you go, FA Cup against Liverpool. He didn't get any form of respect really from Arteta last season. So I do hope that he secures a move elsewhere and gets minutes. Or if he is to stay at Arsenal, which is very unlikely, that he plays Champions League football. There's so many games this year where you need a thicker squad. I think Aaron Ramsdale is a fantastic goalkeeper, and because he's been dropped in this way, he's going to be ridiculed. And that's how it works with goalkeepers. Anyway, just want to quickly touch up on the fact that we want to pay our respects to Sven-Goran Eriksson, obviously the England manager from when we were kids. Was he one of your favourite England managers? He was the first foreign England manager.
Yeah, he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was one of my favourite managers because I think the team underperformed most of that era. There was the famous, incredible 5-1 win in Munich, so against Germany. You can never take that one away. But I think in tournaments they underperformed. He was a fantastic guy. I got to know him reasonably well through covering England and through the Football Writers Association. He came to a few of our dinners and events. And he's a very charming man, as you can probably tell from his personal life. He was a charming man, a very thoughtful and likable person. Probably made a few sort of wrong career decisions as well. I spoke to him actually out in China. He was in China at one point, and I was in Shanghai for an event. And Ian Walker, the old Spurs goalkeeper, was his goalkeeping coach. And I bumped into him, and he said, "Well, give Sven's here. Here's his number. Give him a call." And we did a piece for World Soccer, and he was talking about Chinese football. So he's travelled the world, and obviously very sad day, sad loss. I'm just pleased he got that chance to manage at Anfield because I thought that was a terrific touch by Liverpool. Lifelong dream for Sven. So and he'll be missed. He obviously touched a lot of people in the football world, and he left his mark.
He definitely did. I mean, I remember England growing up. It was that golden generation, and yeah, maybe they did underperform, but he did have a certain charm, and he will definitely be missed by the football world. Speaking of England, though, there is one man linked with the England job, and his team hasn't started the season particularly well. Eddie Howe with Newcastle. Do you see him going to England?
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I don't think he would be in this. I think if he's linked with the England job and that's something that's on his mind, I feel like he'd step away from the Newcastle job very, very soon if that's the case. If it's not, I feel like a manager of his level, with his quality, he's going to have his sole focus on one thing, and it will be Newcastle. I don't think that will be, in the back of his mind and affecting the way he's managing Newcastle and the way Newcastle are playing. I don't think that's going to be a thing unless we find out in 1 or 2 weeks' time that he's moved. And then, it's easy to say in hindsight. But no, I don't think he will.
I think Lee Carsley's going to be there for the rest of for the season. The two sort of international breaks. I think he's going to have both of those. And then it gives the FA time. It buys them some time to really consider who are the options. I think Pochettino was an option, but he's gone to the US job. You never know. It might be even someone like Klopp might be on their radar if he fancies coming back into football next year. It was the intensity of club football that really, that's why he wanted out of Liverpool. That intensity, that every 5-7 days a week, really. Maybe international football might appeal to him. So who knows? But I think I'm not sure about Eddie Howe. Not sure about Eddie Howe as an England manager.
Who would your pick be?
I quite like Graham Potter. It seems like he's holding out for something. Yeah, seems like he's holding out for something. He's rejected a lot of jobs abroad and in England, so I feels like maybe this could be a good time to stamp and remind people what he's capable of.
Well, the interesting thing for me about Lee Carsley coming into the picture is so many of the under-21s that recently won the Euros, etc. They're going to get a look in now. I mean, Emile Smith-Rowe, who's now going to be getting Premier League minutes, he's probably going to path his way into the picture. Some of the more senior England players are getting less minutes. Kieran Trippier is obviously not playing for Newcastle now. But the one player who I think it's only a matter of time before we see him in the England setup was Morgan Rogers. Against Arsenal on Saturday, I've never seen an individual performance that good against Arsenal without winning. He was sensational. He carved through Arsenal like they weren't even there. And these are good Arsenal players. This is a top team. Who's the next England star that we haven't yet seen? Anybody comes to mind for you, Nathan?
I think Harvey Elliott will, if he continues playing how he does for Liverpool, I think he'll be a great asset for England going forward. And I think he could, we have a lot of good midfielders, but I think he could shine in there.
Not yet, but in a couple of years, I think Archie Gray is going to be a sensational player, world-class player. So, but he needs to bed in at Spurs at least a couple of years, but I think he'll be a very, very good footballer. Anybody
come to mind for you? Anybody you've played with?
That I've played with, I mean, I'd like to see Tyreek get a shout at left back. I think he's really, really solid defensively, and I know for a fact that we've not seen the best of him going forward. Maybe due to playing in the Palace team, that's predominantly we defend a lot, starting to slightly change now. So I'd love to see Tyreek get some more minutes. I know he made his debut. I think it might have been a year and a half ago now, but yeah,
I think he's got a real chance this week, isn't he? Because Shaw's nowhere near fully fit, and Trippier and the options aren't there. Chilwell's clearly not getting games. So yeah. I think Tyreek Mitchell would be a good shout for left back.
I think people will be shocked if he was to go in like a regular England team or a team that's higher up in the league. Will be shocked on his ability on the ball as well.
Let's quickly touch on that handball in the Bournemouth Newcastle game. Jerry, do you not think that Howard Webb and PGMOL just need to say, this is the handball rule, we're not going to change it, this is how it works, because no one really knows?
Well, we've always gone on the t-shirt level, okay? So if it's below where your t-shirt is, if the ball hits your elbow, that's handball. Above there, it's not. So I don't see how that was given as a handball. And it also goes against the spirit of what they're calling referees' call. If the referee didn't see it as a goal that should be disallowed, why should it be overturned at Stockley Park? So I think that was really, really harsh on Bournemouth. And I think I was at Spurs, and what was so, Anthony Taylor was the referee. There wasn't one incident of VAR. I think there might have been a very, very quick look at one of the goals, but it was refreshing not to have any controversy. He refereed really well. There were no VAR controversies, and it was great. This was like, I hope this is going to be the standard for the season. That we're not going to get all this, but that just threw it backwards, didn't it?
Lopetegui got his first win as West Ham boss. Oliver Glasner looks like it's going to be a bit more tough for him this time round. It's just not going to be the same without Michael Olise.
No, of course, you've lost probably their best attacking threat, and they probably now need to rely on Eze a bit too much. I do think though, the key players for Crystal Palace will be Eze, but Adam Wharton as well. They need to keep hold of them too, especially after them losing Anderson at the back. Him and Gay had a great partnership, so I think that's a real big loss for Palace. But keeping Morton, who can progress the ball really nicely, and keeping Eze, that'll be key. That'll be key. They need another attacker. Nketiah may be on the way there, and that would be a great signing if they could get him over the line.
It wasn't just a good day for the current Arsenal team. Emile Smith-Rowe scored his first Fulham goal as Leicester were beaten 2-1 at Craven Cottage. It left me, and I assume others, thinking, have Arsenal made a mistake? Nathan, what do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think Arteta fully trusted Smith-Rowe, so there's no point having him in the squad. And he's young enough to go and excel. And we're seeing that with Fulham at the weekend. He was excellent. He dominated, I thought.
I think the key is do they bring someone in before the window, an attacking player? And if they do, an attacking midfielder. And if they do, then I don't think they'll miss him.
You can subscribe to the Arsenal Insider on the Hayters homepage. Nick Callow is literally very well respected within the Arsenal media room. So highly recommend if you're an Arsenal fan or interested in Arsenal for any reason to subscribe there. Let's finish off with the final match before we go on to any last questions. Nottingham Forest got their first win of the season in a relegation 6-pointer. But the relegation 6-pointer happened match day 2. but points in August count for as much as they do in May. Do you think Southampton are just going to go straight back down, Nathan?
I think they'll put more of a fight than they have in the first 2 weeks. Obviously, it takes a lot of time to adjust for some teams. Obviously, Russell Martin's a young manager. He's never experienced this level before as a manager, but he's proved that once he does, he's been with Unge Dons, he's been at Swansea, and he's shown he can step up to the level. And I think we'll see that again here with Southampton. It'll just take a bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, from all accounts, I didn't see the game in full, but from all accounts, they absolutely battered Newcastle, but lost. So I don't think it's necessarily a question that the team's not good enough. It's probably, again, it's about those fine margins, putting the ball in the net, and coming together. It is always about, when you come up, it's about beating the teams around you. You're not really going to get points against the Cities and Arsenals and so on. But if you can get points against Forest and Wolves and Leicester and so on, they're the ones that they need to do. So that was a blow, losing at home to Forest. But I think there's room to grow. Like you say, good manager and a decent squad of players. It's about putting the ball in the net.
Before we wrap up, Lewis, any last-minute transfers that you want to see or expecting to see? We're just heading into the last few days of the window.
Yeah, I touched on it just a minute ago. I'd like to see Eddie Nketiah go to a club like Crystal Palace. I think he needs to get a run of games to really build his confidence and get his form up. And at Arsenal, Arsenal just can't give him that at the moment. They're not in the luxury place to, allow someone 3 or 4 games to get to their top level. So Eddie Nketiah is really the one I'd like to see reach his potential, because I've played against him for years as well, and I know how good he can be.
Jerry, what about you?
I'd be interested to see if Palace do cash in on either Mark Gay or Eze, because they're players in high demand, and it's not easy for a side like Palace to turn down the sort of money you're talking about, 60, 70 million or so. So I think there's watch that space. I think there's going to be probably 1 or 2, clubs looking for a striker. Osimhen's obviously one, and there could be others. So I think there will be activity. I don't think there'll be much from City, Tottenham, Liverpool. Maybe Liverpool still looking for a player. Chelsea, they probably got time to sign another 3. But Arsenal, I think Arsenal will be hoping to get something over the line.
Yeah, I think Arsenal will probably need someone, a striker. But I think, United obviously linked with Ugo. I think that'll be interesting. Chelsea were surprisingly linked with him last year. But he went to PSG, and, it'll be interesting to see how he can help change United if he does come in.
Fine. Thank you very much. That is it for today. Before we wrap up, I must remind you to check out the Hayters membership scheme. You can check that out by clicking on YouTube. The prices start at 99p per month. Just click the join button. I'd do it if I were you. But subscribe to Hayters on all forms of social media for clips, interviews, trainings. It's everything. You know